To start recording. Okay, we've started recording. Yay. Hi my YouTube that literally never fucking sees me. Give me a second, Candy, though. Before you start talking, I have to make sure I got the VC actually recorded. There we go. Why am I not lighting up? I am in a Discord, you son of a bitch Foogie. Sorry, YouTube, you're gonna get absolute chaos. Literally, I'm gonna title this Chaos interview with Candii Cat. Hold on, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna leave and come back in. Are you going to connect? There we go. Now it's gonna connect because it was being dick.
Yippee!
Yay! It was not. It was just not picking up my Fugi, which is normally how I communicate. How people know when I'm talking. Um,
I see.
I'm going to just lower my mic a little bit so I'm not constantly mid yellow. Since we're not trying to fight to make me loud enough. Anyways, so for the video, in sense, introduce yourself, Candii.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not good at. My name is Candii Cat. I'm your favorite, lovely little lady, and I am here existing. That is it.
Have to try and find a way to make sure that you're not getting picked up. I might have to physically mute my mic every time you talk because then we're gonna get double audio otherwise.
All right, all right.
Because unless I turn you down a bunch and just move my IRIAM stream like basically right on top of my laptop, maybe that might work because then they're closer to the actual speaker. Not supposed to be on the all round though. You're supposed to
What
only
gotta
pick up
do?
directly in front of you. Microphone. Yeah, maybe like push to talk. My mic has a nice little mute button on it that I can just kind of rest my hand on to like turn on and off my mic. So like it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't seem to really pick up Candy too badly. And if I make this into a video, I'm just gonna say, hey, no, there's no editing. I don't know how to edit. You're gonna deal with it. If there's double audio, I'm sorry, deal with it. If you don't like it, it's chaotic interview. That's what you're getting. You clicked on the video. Anyways, but yeah. So for my YouTube, this is probably one of my first. This is basically my first YouTube video I've ever made. So hi, I am Rose. For people who are new, I am your average scientist turned witch. I am also doing a stream on the side, so if you hear me talking to other people or mentioning a chat, that is why. Also, hello Marie, welcome in. That is exactly why I said that, because somebody joined the stream and I'm like, I should probably mention that for the video's sake. But so my biggest first question that I want to ask pretty much every VTuber I'm going to be doing this with is how long have you known you wanted to be a VTuber?
Oh goodness. What year is it again? What year is it again?
It is 2025, hun.
Okay, okay. 2025. Probably the past 7 or 6 years.
Dang, you've been in it for a while. That's cool. Um,
Yeah.
so follow-up question: have you always known you wanted to be like Candii Cat as you are now?
No, I did not know. So I originally streamed other under another name as like a 3D cat girl um VTuber, and life just got in the way, and so I shut it down, and now I am now a I'm now a 2D cat girl VTuber. And that's actually quite recent, within the past year. I was like, hey, I like this name. I really like alliteration, and I'm just gonna go for it. And that's what I did.
Since you say you like alliteration, I'm thinking I'm actually genuinely gonna title this Candii Cat Chaos.
I love alliteration so much. I love it with like literally everything that I can. I fear for if I ever have children because they will all have the alliteration in their names somehow. Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of trying to find a way to mitigate the like double audio so I'm not having to constantly hit a button.
Hmm. Take your time.
Yeah, you still get picked up even with like the literal highest freaking noise suppression. Son of a bitch. You wanna fucking have to. I'll have to use push to talk because it'll just be genuinely easier. Record a keybind. We're just gonna dot. So this should, yeah, there we go. Now I'm being recorded through Discord, and now you wait. That might not wait. That won't work for me. You'd have to be on push to talk. Wait a minute, because like you're the one doubled, or would it be no? I have to just be able to mute. So much scuff. So much scuff in one thing. Like echo cancellation is on, but the problem is that I can only mitigate to a certain amount, and because of how close my mic is and how loud the VC is through two separate speakers, it's really yeah. Oh yeah, I could just wait. No, I can't because if I no matter where I mute, unless I physically mute like my mic or through OBS by hitting a button, I need to be able to be recorded, so I can't just mute myself fully. Like if I wasn't recording it, it would be a problem, but because I'm recording this, it's become a problem. I'll try and work on it later for you, Beps. We might do your interview in like a recorded section and rather than a stream maybe, because I like the idea of having a more permanent version of these. And like making this like a cool like little VTuber interview or like a intro to the VTubing world kind of interview series sounds fun. Not to mention I also never really fucking use my YouTube. I really need to find some way to use my YouTube or I'm going to lose my mind because I've had it for so long. Anyways, back to the interview. Sorry YouTube, this is going to be a long video. This is going to be a lot of rambles. It's going to be a lot of stupids. There's a reason why this is most likely going to be called Chaos with Candii Cat or like Candii Cat Chaos. Anyways, so how what you said you had a 3D model. How expensive and long did it take for you to get that?
So it took at least a few hundred. I don't remember where I got the money from, um, but I scrounged up what I had, and I thought it would be just really fun to stream. And so I got one of the more cheaper models. It was a custom Vroid model, and I still have it somewhere on my silly little laptop, and it's just waiting to come back out one day.
That's definitely a very big price difference between yours and what mine ended up coming out to be. Albeit I didn't pay the minimum price because God, this person is criminally undervaluing herself. She makes full body 3D Vroids off of like a base that she's already made for $30 on Ko-Fi. And it's only an extra 20
Mm-hmm.
for a second outfit.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but like you stating like you've already dropped like a few hundred to get your like, Vroid model for 3D. And then there's me sitting here. I paid 40 for mine. So like it's a huge price difference, which is a thing that a lot of people don't realize, especially for people who may want to come into the VTubing circle like this. I mean, when you want to start off on, like, let's say Twitch or something, you end up most commonly feeling like you need to shill out hundreds and hundreds of dollars and that VTubing is a really expensive to start hobby. But it's really kind of not. I mean, pit crews exist, adoptables exist, and like people like my 3D model artist exist as well. But yeah, there are people out there who like the people like IRIAM commissions or the person you found who may cost you a few $100s, which most people don't have just sitting around on hand. And like that kind of I think that price point disparage like between them can be a really negative talking point between just being, as many people hate when I call it this, a flesh tuber or being a VTuber. Um, and there's also both of us, because on IRIAM, which is where we met, we both are PNG too, or at least you used to be. You managed to make your own model at this point.
Yes.
But we both were PNG tubers. So, further question talking about PNG tubing, how did you feel you were perceived as just a PNG rather than like an actual 2D or 3D model?
I don't think that I had that much of a difference, if I'm going to be completely honest. Um, so I feel like people with models are taken just a tiny bit more seriously at times just because they have more money to put down. But of course, that's not the case. Um, I was lucky to get a hold of a very, very cheap model, and I had somebody rig my model for free, which I'm very, very grateful for. Um, but I feel like we need more appreciation in the PNG tuber space because it is more affordable. And for people starting out with streaming or people that are really good with artistic skills, but not so much with the rigging part and that
Like
whole
me.
process, I believe. Yeah, yeah, like you. Um, I feel like people that are really good at art, but they don't quite know how to rig yet. I feel like PNG tubing is like perfect for them.
And I have to agree, obviously, because all of my PNGs pretty much that I use now, from now pretty much on, have been drawn by me. I mean, in the past, I did use other people's artwork who I have credited. Um, like for the longest time, I didn't even have a full-bodied version of myself. My original starting point was from her hips up, drawn by one of my friends, who also does stream on Twitch, actually. She didn't at first, but now she does. Then I got two free artwork pieces done by somebody who used to stream on Twitch, and then just kind of fell off the face of the world somehow. And they were actually originally going to be my 2D model artist. They were going to be like my model parent. But after they disappeared, I kind of gave up on that. Another person who's been streaming for little over 2 years at this point, or coming up on a little over 2 years. Being a PNG tuber is definitely rough. At least for me. I feel like a lot of people come in expecting a full model or something. Because, VTubers of most, like, big names and most people who recognize VTubing recognize it as a fully moving and articulated and expressive art form where you have expressions and stuff. Being a PNG doesn't really allow for that kind of range. And I feel like there's a lot of issues where a lot of people are like, well, you're less expressive. And so it kind of drags it into, well, maybe you should just save your money and get a better model. Which I feel is also very disparaging for newbies coming into the scene of this.
Yes. Um, oh my goodness, I had a whole point. What was I gonna say? Oh no. Um, oh yeah, for PNG tubing, one thing that I do well, I did like about PNG tubing, and I still do today, is that people don't stay for the fancy model. They stay for your personality. And that's just something that has always stuck with me. It's like no matter how good of a model I have or will get, people will stay because of you and not because of your art or rig or any fancy thing that you have added. They're staying there just for you.
And that I feel like that is something that a lot of people are kind of losing in the new wave of a lot of VTubing, especially a lot more non-indie VTubing. I feel like the focus on I don't know if you agree, but like the focus on the actual talent and the personality of the person is kind of fading in a sense of, well, we need really bright model, really big expressions. We need to do lots of 3D stuff. We need 3D models where they're in like a VR chat messing around with each other because there's this cool new thing going on. And it's a lot less about the person behind the model and it's all about the model and the persona that they have to put on to be that model rather than just them as a personality.
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that, but I also don't think that it should become the standard either. That is like an exception, for corporate and big indie VTubers.
And I agree. It's not necessarily a negative thing. I'm not saying it's a negative. I absolutely love like on IRIAM. I love Yang. Yang does the same thing. Yang in real life really isn't that flirty. Yet on IRIAM and on her Twitch streams, she's a literal kitsune in the basically the pleasure district of Japan. So like she plays up a lot more of a flirty, I hope you had a good night kind of character. And that's completely fair, but I feel like a lot of people are trying to push people to be something more characterized or caricatured because a lot of people, especially new wave people who are enjoying it, are coming from like anime and stuff, and they're wanting to have like, especially for like certain female, model types and outfit types, they are expecting something along the lines of them being more of an anime waifu girl or being the anime girl that they expected from an anime rather than just a real life person who just, let's say, doesn't want to show their face. Or in Iron, like we're gonna use Iron Mouse for example. Iron Mouse doesn't show her face and became a VTuber purely because of all of the medical equipment. This got really fucking serious a lot faster than I meant it to.
It's all right. It's all right. I completely agree with you.
But like I've seen a few VTubers even on IRIAM have like kind of not full breakdowns, but like decently strong like venting sessions on stream where they're like, I don't know what to do because I can't give you more than who I am. Because that's who they are. My Kamiyoshi on IRIAM. I really want to do this with him. I really do. Um, literally had this moment where he wanted to, like with IRIAM, we have the star badges, and a lot of people give star badges and point giving rewards. And when he did, he finally thought he was fine, but he kept pushing himself to stream all these long endurance streams and then all his added rewards. And then people were kind of pushing him to be something he didn't feel like he really was. And so he just kind of broke. And now he's taking a step back. He's not losing daily streamer on Irium, but like he's literally doing the minimum 30 minutes he's required to keep it, and that's it. And that's fine, but I feel like it's almost terrible to see such an amazing guy who literally has, in his own words, said that he would throw himself in front of a train for you, even if he doesn't know you, be pushed to that point because people want somebody to be a character or a caricature of something. Because it's slowly becoming the standard and it is really bothersome.
I feel like it's increasingly a problem with the pressure. Again, as you said, a lot of people, they don't like, I don't think it registers that there's a person behind the character that brings it to life and how much effort it takes to actually do like any kind of entertainment like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. There's also a lot of like the whole thing with when it comes to like the creation of what your even especially if like what your model looks like. Um, because a lot of the time in male models, male models who have more skin showing tend to be treated a lot more provocatively just because they're, have an open shirt or with all of like female models with like, big personalities, let's put it that way, tend to get, oh, well, you look this way, so you must be open for it. And like, it's really rough for people who aren't like that. And so it's like, so there's the running of the risk of people being like, oh, well, but you're making yourself look this way. So you have to be okay with this because this is how you're choosing to look, which definitely should not be the thing. I'm sure you agree with that.
I do. I do. I'm sorry, it takes a minute for me to process.
That's fine. It's fine. I like how like sometimes we're like talking super serious, and then I mute myself in case you were like up and ready to talk, and then there's just silence.
Nothing. Nothing. Because I'm thinking, I'm like, oh no, it's on the spot. Yeah, I don't know. I I don't know. There's some kind of standard there. Sometimes different audience think that because you are like your art is one way, that they are owed something from you. And so it that can go with personality wise too. Like the character that you portray, they want you to hold it up 24/7 and they think that they are owed that. Now, this isn't everybody, but there are cases I have seen where it does get a bit too extreme and it causes burnout, just complete burnout. It just gets too much.
Yeah, that's something I'm super concerned about, with being somebody who's extremely mentally ill. I feel like that's also another thing. I find most VTubers also tend to have some kind of neurodivergency, which doesn't help the fact of like burnout being a big issue. Like, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
experienced burnout, but if you have, do you mind sharing a little bit about like what led up to it?
I can. So I've been burnt out for many of reasons. I mean, occasionally I get burned out from life, just like not being able to do the things that I enjoy. Um, with chatting, I occasionally get burnt out as well. It's more of I have this cycle that I go through. I hyperfixate on doing different activities. This could be streaming or art or anything in between. I will throw myself fully into the thing that I'm doing. I have people interact with me while I am doing the thing, and then I suddenly get like sapped of my energy. I'm no longer hyper fixated on it, and I have to keep the same momentum or I lose the people. And I am just now getting to the point where I'm able to balance that.
Yeah, and like balance is definitely a big thing. Like being able to balance. let's say, like, for me, it's not too bad. I mean, I don't have a job. Both of us are in classes. So like we have to balance our college schedule and stuff like that, or your university schedule around it. But like for some people who might be both in like college and working a part-time job and trying to get into the VTubing or just streaming like sphere, it's very hard to find a balance where you're not just pushing yourself and burning the candle basically at both ends, if we're going to use some metaphors here. Um, but like that becomes a huge issue, and I don't feel like a lot of like the really big ones tend like big, well known, even indie, because there's a lot of indies now who are coming out because of drama, which I'm not going to talk about. um but like, they don't always talk about the fact of finding that balance, because before there's that huge level of corporation. Corporate VTubers tend to have a lot more pushback on finding that comfortable balance of like their IRL life comparative, because like the company is constantly like, well, you need to have this amount of hours, you need this amount of engagement and this and that, and do whatever you have to. I don't care if that means you're doing a subathon for 2 weeks straight and you don't have any IRL like social life. You're gonna do that subathon just to get your like quota or whatever.
Yeah, that's it is a balance as a content creator. You have to learn how to um, balance that in a way that everything that you do, you just have to remember that it doesn't all have to be content. You can do things just for yourself.
Yeah, and that, like that's like a big thing. And on the topic of like corporate, like corpo VTubers, as they're colloquially are termed in like the sphere and everything, there's also a huge like uptick and push to being a part of one. Instead of when VTubing started, especially in America, it was completely and totally indie. There was no corporation over here on America side or English side in general that had VTuber companies. But then when like IRIAM started getting big and like some of the indies started getting big, the Japanese VTubing companies who had basically kind of built a standing in Japan, because there's a lot more idol culture and a lot of stuff like that over there, decided to kind of try and hop over and expand outside of just Japan. But with that, it feels like so many people push to be part of like some kind of overarching company to build your community. But the problem is a lot of companies tend to just be like, well, we have this IP, so if you join us and you actually get in, you're going to be this. But if you leave, we hold all rights to everything else, which then becomes a huge issue if they ever want to leave, which then basically locks you into an inescapable way of doing anything if you want to continue, which I find honestly a nightmare.
I'm starting to see I'm actually starting to see like a pushback on corpo recently with all of the big ones that are established in the West. I see a lot of the smaller ones dissolving right now, and even some of the bigger ones taking some big blows.
Yeah, that's a very very recent, like within the last month, kind of update and uptick. But for probably the past 5 plus years, had been a big push for any decently sized indie to just kind of go, hey, why don't you try and join this corporation? Or, hey, wouldn't it just be easier on you if you did this corporation kind of thing? Which thankfully is falling away, because people are really starting to realize, hey, maybe the corporations aren't really looking out for the talents or looking out for the streamers and their personal lives, which is a huge thing.
I feel like people go in just for the opportunities and nothing else. And when they sign their contract, they hope to stay for a few years and then skedaddle once they've met their quota, like what they wanted to do, and they have a solid foundation and they are comfortable leaving at that point. I don't feel like many corporate idols, especially VTubers, intend to stay forever.
That might be a thing, but unlike on like IRIAM, because IRIAM has like Bond Live and stuff like that, which is basically kind of like its own generation wave within IRIAM, where they have like your support where they give you like a model or like a PNG, like Melody Keys. She went through the debut support, which they used to give a full model. Now they don't. Now they just give you a PNG. Um, and then they own that model unless you until you stream like I think Levi and Kiri told me it's like 300 hours, but the problem is only 2 hours. Yeah, 300. Thank you, Babs. Thank you. 300 hours, but only 2 hours a day count towards it. So that means you have to stream 150 days. Um, um, and so like there's like 150 basically days you have to stream on here, like on Irium and stuff like that to get your stuff. And like that's fine. And that's completely and totally fair, but like with like bigger corporations, like I'm not naming names because like I don't want them coming after me or anything, but like some of them in the contract it states that they own that IP no matter what, or they change the terms after a certain point when it's up for review to then try and keep them in rather than just letting them out.
I believe it's completely fair for like being able to work for your IP and having like a set standard. But I agree with you that the holding of the IP is just not it doesn't bolster like a good community, and I feel like at that point you're just kind of kidnapping the streamers just a little bit, which can actually lead to more burnout, um, more examples of what I was talking about earlier, because you're forced to stream, and at that point you stream because it's a requirement and not because it's fun.
Obviously, like streaming can be a job, but like when it becomes a job, it should still be some levels of fun. Cause like you're a lot of people like a lot of haters for like the idea of streaming in general is a big thing is like, well, all you're doing is all you're doing is like playing video games or just talking to people all day. And it's like, well, for VTubing, yeah, that's part of it, but that's definitely not all of it. With like IRL streaming, that's a lot closer to the truth. Cause like, well, yes, there is some minor connection work outside of it, there's not as much need for or a lot of stress on making sure you have like all your art, like your artists and everything like that, and making sure everything's all talked through communication and all of like um and everything being anonymous so you don't end up having your stuff leaked and stuff. Like, you know, that kind of big thing that seems to like drag a lot of VTubers down.
Mm-hmm. I have no additional notes.
Yeah, but like that's just like a big thing for me. Another thing, how because we're on IRIAM, and I talk a lot about IRIAM decently. Like how do you find like IRIAM as just like a kind of streaming platform and stuff like that? How do you feel it is?
Actually really enjoy it because you don't have multiple monitors. You don't really have to worry about audio as much because everybody gets around the same audio quality. You don't have to worry about your model lagging because of the latency thing. And Irium is more, I'd like to say tight knit. Like, I feel like streamers are more likely to know each other as opposed to other streaming platforms where it's very, very broad in the different categories. This is just VTuber and PNG tuber focused. And I enjoy the easy layout and the tight knit community that I've discovered here.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big part, and like the fact that they're very open to helping new people come in to like the scene, whether that's giving them a PNG or if you got here earlier, you'd get like a model and stuff like that, and you can work with them. And like there's definitely that. There's also all of like the events and stuff that they try and do, which definitely help uh, you know, push people out further into a bigger spotlight or things like that. Like with the Soon Scoops one that we just finished, like people now have ice cream apparently, or like the one that's upcoming. There's the calendar and the song one is coming up, literally starting tomorrow at 7 p.m. um, both of those are literally starting tomorrow. Um, and so like those are some really big points, and it definitely is kind of nice, especially when it comes to like the fact that yeah, it is completely and 100% VTube focused. It is completely and totally there's no visual like actual people. So you're not fighting against real life people or real life stuff to try and, gain more traction against somebody where they see the face. But yeah, like I definitely I'm grateful like having this up like the chance to be on here because like um sorry for all the pauses YouTube sorry I'm just trying to give Candy Cat like a chance to like talk because I have to mute so there's that big that's why there's a lot of pauses I'm sorry um but like with Irium it's because it's on your phone it is so easy to just kind of pop up and stream anywhere even though like audio quality kind of sucks sometimes let's say if like you're walking through the streets or something like that just out in public but like it's a thing you can do you can just like take your viewers to a festival or something that's not normally necessarily something that you can do as a VTuber on pretty much any other platform because everything's all set up through um like VTube Studio or 3D different programs. Like for me, when I get mine, it's going to be through Warudo and stuff like that, which is all laptop based.
I can't even stream with my normal model, like on my laptop. So I feel like the flexibility of Irium doing purely mobile streaming makes it more accessible not only to the streamers but the chatters as well, because it's easier just to hop in, say hi, how are you, and you can actually talk with the people. There's a better chance of the streamer actually responding and having a full conversation than there is otherwise on other streaming platforms.
Yeah, and like that's definitely a big thing, especially for like people who are bigger or like for like let's say for example, we've got like people like Tauntaun, who technically is probably one of the oldest founding streamers here on IRIAM. She literally is consistently on different uh ads and stuff like that. Like literally when I found out about Irium, I found out because she was part of she was like basically the sponsor for it for a charity event, and all of like the ads they used had Tauntaun in it if they had a VTuber actual model on. And even her, with how big her community is, like if I look her up, I'm pretty sure she has over 1,000 followers on here, like on Irium. She still can read chat pretty much all the time and is very consistent about responding. And like it's definitely definitely a big positive when it comes to like Irium and everything like that. But my biggest thing is like this is probably gonna probably be like this is not super long. We're probably only gonna go for like another 15. But my biggest secondary question is when it comes to streaming, what is like your biggest goal? Because like I already know what my biggest goal, at least when I came on Irium, was. But like I don't know if everybody else does.
My big goal is to hopefully stream on different platforms, have the grand trio of YouTube, Twitch, and Irium. Hopefully, I will be on Irium streaming, and then I will post both YouTube and I will occasionally stream on Twitch and just kind of do the holy trinity, the holy trinity, the whole. Oh my goodness, the holy trinity. I can't say it. Rose, you gotta
The
help me out.
holy trinity of
The whole, of
streaming.
yes, the holy trinity streaming. I feel like I'm having a stroke.
Strong.
I want to be able. I'm hoping to stream on different platforms. I'm also hoping to do a lot more collabs. Hopefully I will have less audio problems with that. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, I really just do it not really for any goals, but just because I enjoy just hanging out with people. I started streaming as a way to talk with people. I am actually very socially anxious. That is why I go quiet quite a bit. And I don't get out of my house much. I try to be super social, but I just get burnt out very quickly. And so streaming is a way that I can interact with people without fearing that I am too much. Because if people join my stream, I know that they're coming in there for me and not for anything else.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big thing. Like and for a lot of people, like I feel like also some of like the goals tend to be different depending on like the streaming platform. For like me, Twitch is just a Twitch thing. I like streaming on there just to enjoy myself and like not really push for anything. I'm not really like pushing for partner or anything. Like I'm not doing that. I pushed for affiliate slightly, barely at all. I basically got carried by other friends. But like on IRIAM, my biggest thing is I want to be able to connect with people, grow my community, and also possibly write some actual songs with every like full like lyrics and music and everything like that. Because I can do two parts of a song. I can do the lyrics and the actual singing, but like the actual instrumentals are a point of struggle, so to put it. And a lot of people said like, well, there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of people who do different parts and stuff like that. So like maybe you might be able to. I'm looking forward to that in my future. But yeah, um, thanks Candy for hanging out with me for 45 minutes and answering some
Of course.
questions. It got a lot more serious than I planned on. I definitely didn't mean for this to be as, you know, genuinely big serious topics. This was meant to be more teehee funny, but like the interviews kind of go as you go, especially if you don't script them beforehand, which I didn't.
I enjoyed speaking with you and having like a genuine like heart to heart conversation. I really enjoyed it.
But yeah, like thanks again. With that, I'm gonna end this recording. See you guys on YouTube. Um, Yay, bye.